Jim Ayers today. He is a psychologist and a carver.
Yep.
And he's going to talk to us about his experiences. Thank you very much.
It's good to be here. Yeah. I'm looking forward to sharing this with you because I'm going to talk about wood carving, but more than that, what our minds and our spirit does. Why in the hell do people do this stuff? And it's not just for wood carving, it's for everything, that how do we express ourselves. So, call it Wings of Wonder, you'll understand that as you get into it. And handwork and headwork. And I want to say something about this word, the Takoyawasin is Dakota. It says, for all our relatives, we are all one. This is their primary greeting and closing in meetings in the Dakota language. And we are on Dakota land here too. So not only for that, but there's another word that I want to bring into it too, is Ubuntu. If you haven't heard of it, it's a South African word. And it's along the same line. The Takoyawasin says we are all one. Not just people, but the elements, the animals, we're all one. Ubuntu focuses on the interaction of that. It says, I speak because you listen. I am because of you. You are because of me. We are because of us. And that is the background in terms of my work as a psychologist, but it also has a lot to do with wood carving. Because not only am I dealing with wood, that wood is dealing with me. So I do a style called fan carving, and you'll see, I'm going to show you a video, short one, going the whole process and how it's done. Then I'm going to flip on a camera here so you could see what I actually do with my hands to make this stuff happen. And then I want to end up with some poetry or reflect meditations on particular birds. Because it's not just wood carving, it's birds. Okay? So, here we go. We learn from the head down, but we also learn from the hands up. And our hands are key to the development of our brain. In the evolutionary history, not only did our ancestors begin to stand up, come out of the trees and walk, they began to do things, and doing things with their hands, and it developed into an opposable thumb. A lot of animals don't have that. And that meant we could hold things, do things. And what we were doing with our hands, we were interacting with our environment. And that interaction stimulated the development of the brain. Okay? It wasn't just passively absorbing. It was taking stuff in, organizing it, and so this history goes way back. Thank goodness for our hands. Okay? So handwork guides headwork. So here's the thing I'm going to share with you, a little video. The next step is to cut the wood very, very thin, which will become the feathers. Hang on. Keep going here. Just a second. You know how that goes, right? Okay. Okay, I'm going to advance the video. Okay. This microphone works?
Yes.
Do you want me to use it? That helps. Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to switch to another video input. Bear with me. I want you to see what I'm doing and the craft behind it. And I got this camera, and it's attached to a harness that I have to put on. And when I get it on, I gotta tighten it up. A little awkward at first, but what I'm doing is this camera will show you right in front of my hands. You'll see here what I'm seeing. And one of the problems with showing stuff is people view something from an audience rather than the artist. So this is going to allow you to see exactly what I'm trying to do, and that will allow me to explain what I'm trying to do and the how, okay? Because for me, carving is magic. I've been carving, I think, for about 72 years now. Started when I was 11 years old as a Boy Scout carving neckerchief slides. So let me do the magic here. Got that. Got this. Now I got to plug it in. We live in a world, a digital world, where all we can do is plug stuff in. And sometimes we don't know what we're plugging in. Okay, let's see. Give it a chance to connect. Okay, we're in. So, you can see my hands, right? To close this down a little bit for the background, I want to talk about our hands, okay? We've got two of them, fortunately. I've cut myself on occasion, but only once, okay? And the secret to carving, the way I do it, is not just the knife, but the hands. Because you're talking about a sharp instrument that you have to move and manipulate to do certain things. And wood carving is not like carving stone or clay. Wood carving is carving a material with grain. And that grain is the key to understanding how it's going. Let me see if I got one more thing somewhere in here. Yep, we got it. Block of wood. Let's see what we got. You can see, I don't know if you can see the grain. Yeah, you can see the grain on there. Okay. Wood has grain, and the grain is the life path of the nurturing and so on. And when we're carving, I gotta go with the grain. If I'm going against the grain, I gotta do something different. Okay. So the tools I used is basically this blade right here. That's it. I've had it for about 20 years. It's gotten shorter. But a good carving knife is made out of very good steel. And the reason for that, it's not like this one, for example, would cost me about 40 bucks, maybe a little bit more, but it's worth it. It has a nice, comfortable handle. And the secret to a carving knife is the angle. So when I hold it like this, you almost can't see it, okay? And, compare it, you know about an X-Acto knife? You all know that? It's a great knife, but it's made to cut paper or light stuff, not to go very deep. The carving knife has a bevel on it that is very tight. And part of the sharpening is to get that bevel down there so it goes into the wood. Once it makes touch with the wood, then you do something different. And but getting that bevel down takes some grinding and so on. The other part of is after the blade is shaped, then what I do is I have a strop. and it's made out of leather, and on the leather is some paste, that it has an abrasive material in it. And what I'm doing is I bring the blade not forward, but back, okay? And I do it on both sides. And what I'm doing is polishing that blade. You say, why do you polish it? Well, if you look at a carving knife under a microscope, an electron microscope, you'll see it looks like a saw. It's not a perfect thing. It is so jagged and so on. And I want to get this down so that makes contact with the wood, okay? Before I go a bit further, a little bit, you've heard different kinds of carving tools. This is a gouge, okay? Hold it in my hand. There's all kinds of different gouges. You talk to see carvers, they have about, I would say about 10 dozen different tools that work with it. But the idea is there. Another common tool is a veiner. So between these three tools, I can do a lot, okay? But backing up a little bit, what you saw on the video was the feathers being sawed, okay? And I have a jig for that, but here's the saw blade I use. Again, it's so thin, it's a band saw that will always move in a constant direction, and I have a good band saw where I adjust it 200 depths so there's no vibration back and forth either way. And then there's a band saws have a blade guide above the table and below the table. And there's different ways of doing that, but there's a magic thing called, I'm blanking, how about that? It'll come. But it's a material that I put in, and it actually makes contact with the blade. And it has graphite impregnated in it, okay? Oh, they're called clue blades, clue blocks, because they make contact and it doesn't heat up. And that locks this blade in, okay? And the other thing that you saw was that I can make a cut, and it also has to be lined up precisely with the grain, okay? And what happens then is that I have a jig, different ways of doing it, but I want to advance the wood into the blade between each cut. So I can, I use now I use a threaded rod. You know, you can go to a hardware store, get a threaded rod, and different pitches, different threads per inch. And the one I use most commonly is 13 threads per inch. Okay, that means a revolution, full revolution will give me 13 cuts as it moves. But a half a revolution will give me 26. That's the smallest I can go. And that can be 26 feathers per inch. So you can imagine that stuff. So it took me years to figure this out. And you got to figure, why in the hell would a person do this? Well, that's wood, right? Think of your experience with any kind of art form. You get hooked. And you start off maybe trying to make it perfect, but you know, the only thing that's perfect is duplicating your password. Everything else is not perfect. It's a process. And so when we do something with our hands, we're experimenting, we're interacting with material. And it might be clay, it might be literally anything. In my case, it's wood. And so these are the tools that I use. The final tool, as you saw, is the scissors. And the wood gets very fine, very there. So what I'm going to do is I've got a bird ready to go. This is going to be a pea stub when it's done. I'm going to take the rubber band off here. I did almost all the carving is done, and you can see that these feathers will bend a little bit. But the key is right here. Okay, when you can see that, how it joins the body of the bird, I want to carve that down to the width of a toothpick. Okay, and you can do that. And I'll get into the carving part a little bit first. But I can do that, And I do it very carefully. And then I get the extra stuff out. You can see the knife is quite sharp. Okay. And before I jump into this, let me talk a little bit about handwork with the knife. Because the secret to wood carving, like I said, is not just a good tool, but what you do with it. And if you're using machines, you could be mechanized. That's great. But when I'm using a hand tool, part of the beauty is something is taking shape that's very unique. And someday I'd like to write a book called Wood Speak. Don't know if I'll make it, but the image I'm getting at is, yes, we do the wood, but the wood speaks back as we interact with it. And it guides us as to what we can do, what we can't do. If we can't do it, maybe we can do it a different way. But here's the deal. The secret to carving with a knife is not just a good knife, but the hands, okay? And when I talk about it, I can teach a 9-year-old kid how to carve safely. And the way to think about it is you got that sharp blade, and you want to put power behind the blade, okay? But you don't want to lose control. When I've lost control, I've cut myself, and I figured, what happened? Okay? Band-Aids are great. Glue is fine too. But the point is, you're doing it. So I think of 4 P's what this knife can do. The first thing, we can just pinch it into the wood. Make a little notch. It's called a stop cut. And the other thing that we can do is I can push that blade, we don't want to get that, with my thumb. So the control is in my right hand, the power is in my left hand. Okay? So I can do that. Now I can also not just push it with my thumb, I can keep my thumb steady and use it as a pivot. Okay? So when you get things done, you can remove. And part of the carving experience is go with the wood. Small chips done repeatedly get you very far. And it's also a matter of, this is not a power play with the hand. It's a precision of working with it and interacting with the grain of the wood and so on. So that pinch, push, pivot. The 4th P is pull. Sometimes I got to carve towards myself. An example of this would be on this bird. If I go this way, I'm going against the grain. The grain will pull the blade into the wood. I got to go this way. How do I do that? Well, I put my thumbs together and I just simply rotate. But the point is, that blade is under control all the time. And that's not just for safety purposes. That allows me to put power behind that blade. So that's basically the knife work. Let's get on with opening up the feathers. We've got going to be a piece stub. There we go. And I can take the first feather on top. I can bend it over and it won't break. If it does break, I got extra feathers. Okay? There's always glue. I can take the other one. Now that's the beginning of the 2 wings. And the notch on the feathers here allow the feather behind to overlap the one in front. There we go. There we go. Okay. And I do this on this side. And what you're seeing is the beginning of the 2 wings. I keep on doing that. And like I said, you've got to grab only one feather at a time. And it's very pleasing to do this because all of a sudden this 2-dimensional thing is becoming 3-dimensional. And it's always a discovery because every piece of wood is different. And the grain and every shape is different. And this, what I call fan carving, is the common name for it. And it's an ancient art with wood. because wood has grain. I'm using a saw to slice it. The traditional way is to use a knife. And you can indeed split the wood, but you can't get quite this precision. Okay? So I got hooked on this. Like I said, it took me, I think, 5 years to learn how to do it. Because of, what went wrong? Can you do it better? I started trying to cut the wood with razor blades. That didn't work. Scroll saw, a nice thin blade, you'd think that'd work. But that blade is jumping all over the place, and you can't steady it. The carvers that use just a knife, they usually use cedar, a piece of green cedar that is wet. And if it's dry, they soak it. And if they get it, they want to keep it, then they soak it and put it in the freezer to keep the water content always there, because wood will be much more responsive that way. But they would put this body of the bird in a vise, and with the feathers pointed up, with a draw shave, follow the grain down. Okay? If you go on YouTube and just search for fan carving, you can see a bunch of it. Some very nice stuff. So I'm moving along on here, and as you can see, there's a lot of feathers. And the song is rewarding for me at this point, because now I get a feel for the carving in a different way. And so I love birds. I'm a bird watcher, not a fanatic one. But I'm trying to get the magic for this, for me, is the bird in flight. You can carve a bird sitting still and so on, beautiful, but what birds do is fly. So I want to get the bird in flight. So I got here 2 wings. Now I turn it over. I got a few more feathers. I can do the tail. I take the first feather, a little bit different, and I take the feather behind it. And this feather happens to have cut off. It just broke. So I can take that and pull it out. Okay? So you can see it's not hanging by much. So I could take the next feather, put it on one side, take the feather on the other side, put it on the other side, and keep on doing that. And you can see a nice tail take shape. I've got 2 more feathers here. There we go. So I got a tail, I got 2 wings, and I'm going to take, look at from the top here, I'm going to grab the wings and spread them like that. Spread it like that. And I got to keep it all together. So now the tail is holding the wings apart. Okay. A lot of carvers don't do that. They just let the thing go. But I want to get the bird in flight. And then I'll quickly do a little bit of this yet, just so we can move on. How are we doing on time, okay? You following? If you have comments or questions, just holler, and I can repeat them so people can hear. Can you still hear me in back? Okay. I'm going to, just briefly, like you saw in the video, just trim the feathers a little bit longer each time, so the back of the wing will be shorter than the front of the wing. That's how the wings are shaped. Okay. Do the same on the other side very quick. And the wood cuts like paper. This wood is aspen. For the small birds, I like to use aspen. Part of that reason is that it's a good carving wood, but it has a very fine grain, and it's a major source of paper pulp because of that. And the other thing I like about aspen, can't hold it up to the light here, but if you hold it up to the light, you see the wings are translucent. So this bird is going to be a pea stub. I'm not going to paint it. You hang it up and it just rotates and the light catches it. Almost like a mobile, but it's there. The other thing, in the interest of time, I won't round the wings. This is a pea stub, okay? So in the mouth, there's a saw cut, and I put a little olive branch in there. So now it's there, okay? So the idea of, well, I want to get the bird in flight, that's the magic of it, but then many different birds. So what I want to do now is just move along to get back on the computer and share a little bit about reflections about the carvings. That's where the mental health stuff comes in, by the way. Now if I can figure out what to unplug. Okay.
I thought the mental health part came cleaning up the mess that you just made.
The nice thing about wood carving in any kind of art, you can make a mess. And thank God we got a good vacuum. Yeah, Joe.
What's the failure rate? It seems like there's so many points where you could...
Joe is asking about the failure rate. How many things don't work out? Initially, about every third bird might fail. But right now, I'd say 99% of them don't.
Wow.
And the reason being is you got glue, right? If you really have gone far into something and you're not going to throw it away, but I've got a couple dozen birds where the feathers have broken off. The carving is done, and I save them because now if I teach something, people can look at that as a model for what to do with it. So, yeah, but failure comes with trying, okay? And so I've learned things. Yeah.
Failure's the wrong word, but yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, that's what I do. Now the other part is what's the head doing with the handwork? David Sibley is probably the most world-renowned bird expert, okay? He's published a number of books. If you get a bird book now, you can get a large one, and for me it was special because I could see the bird in flight, okay? And it showed both the top and bottom of the wings. And when I was trying to carve a loon, I never saw a picture of the bottom of a loon's wing, okay? And loons, a lot of birds are sitting still, beautiful, but what does it look like in flight? So there's a book signing that David had some years ago, and he was there, and someone in the audience asked him, what has been your most special experience with the bird? The most moving thing with the bird? He thought a little bit, he said, well, to hold a chickadee in my hand. A chickadee weighs about 2/4, barely there. It's the one bird that stuff. So the birds are special. Lindbergh said he'd rather have birds than airplanes. This hope is a thing with feathers from Emily Dickinson. Birds have always been special. And with birds, I think the zoo comes to you. All you got to do is get out and look. And you sit still, and you will see different birds. Especially where you're here, go down by the river, or in a forested area, you'll see plenty of birds, but part of it is being there at the right time of day and so on. Some of you have bird feeders, huh? And you got to keep squirrels away from bird feeders, that type of thing. But birds are very special. So, I want to go with this thing. And when I'm carving, I have a time to think and to reflect. And again, it's not so much perfection, trying to go from a premeditated thing, but what is this bird telling me? What has my experiences been with this bird? What is the wood telling me? And just go with it. And when I got a knife in my hand, maybe you've experienced this too, if you're doing something with your hands, you forget everything else. And especially if a sharp knife, you got to pay attention. But I can be in the middle of a noisy room, and if I have a knife and I'm carving, I'm somewhere else. And I'm there. So, carving, yeah, Karen will, oh yeah, thank you. As you get older, got to stay hydrated, right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Do you want me to move it away from?
No, I'm okay, I won't pump it. So, this is my reflection on a cardinal. When I do art fairs and stuff like that, I have gift cards, and it's what does this bird mean? We all have different meanings, and I've made about 36 different birds, and at art fairs or whatnot, everybody has a bird story. Okay, and what does this bird mean? A common one is a cardinal. And here's my experience with the cardinal. It says, call of the cardinal. It's been one of those beige, blah, boring, and bleached days when the flat and colorless mutes the spirit, when a monotone drudgery drabs down the day, so that all is flavorless and odorless. Then, over the rooftops it comes, a scarlet flash amidst the green, a tone so clear, so vibrant, it seems to say, stand still, and hear me sing. Sing too, like the cardinal song, right? Stop now, and feel the thrill. You too can sing. You too can sing. Alive, all around us, alive. Two. The cardinal. Okay. Again, think about your reactions to hearing a cardinal or seeing one. That's just one bird of many. The other favorite bird is the bluebird. What does the bluebird mean for us? What meaning we go for that? Well, here's my reflection on the bluebird. Where bluebirds fly. There are blue skies somewhere when dark clouds climb. There are gentle breezes somewhere when wild winds wail. It's not hard to see the roughness of life and feel the sweat of a struggle. It's not hard to glare at the ground when there's no end in sight. But it takes heart to hope, especially on the darkest day. Look elsewhere than down and scan the skies. Blue on blue it softly flies, seeking a gentler, generous home. Amidst the daily din and terror of life, remember, the bluebird flies. So you can see where I get into this. I gave this morning this presentation to about 15 people in treatment for addiction. And the focus was, yeah, addiction is one thing, but what is the mind doing? Why do we get hooked? So there's a big shift in terms of understanding addiction, in terms of thinking in terms of co-occurring disorders. That depression and anger and so on, emotional stuff goes hand in hand with addiction. Addiction is trying to handle something, but has consequences. And when we get addicted, we lose confidence in ourselves, other people do, and things go to hell. So, there's a coffee house about a mile from here. You may know of it, called Wildflower Coffee House. It used to be Peace Coffee, located on 33rd and Minnehaha. Still there. Peace Coffee closed, Wildflower opened up. And the mission of Wildflower is to deal with homeless youth, provide resources for that. But a lot of youth are homeless because of the developmental experiences regarding sex. In terms of if you're gay or feeling gay and dealing with that, if you're wondering about transgender and stuff like that, the family has a hard time dealing with it. And a lot of youth are abandoned by their family and will not come. So it goes hand in hand. And so I was struck by the wildflower mission is not only help them, but then the part is carved an eagle that is above the service counter, okay? That eagle is starts with the size of wood, about a 2x4, okay? That's one of the bigger birds I made. Another bird that's there is a flamingo, okay? Now these are special because, again, there with the eagle, I have a reflection. And the reflection is what the eagle says. So it's be not afraid to fly. Be not afraid of your personal power if you have eyes of the eagle to see those in need around you. Be not afraid to soar with your talents and trust your wings of faith to fly high but not fly away. Dare to feel not only your own fear but also the pain of others. Be not afraid to touch the earth and discover the dust and mud of earth. For it is in giving that we truly receive. And it is in receiving that we best give. For listening is the loftiest way to speak. And stooping to help is surely to soar. Be not afraid to fly. Nelson Mandela, after he was elected president, after 27 years in prison, he went around to give inaugural speeches to the townships. And he loved to give a quotation by an American writer that he loved to include. And he says, our greatest fear, keep in mind, our greatest fear is not our weakness. Our greatest fear is our strength. And he goes on to say, it does no good to not pay attention to that for fear of making waves or other things. He says, we're all created and have strength and a vitality, and we're created to live and be alive and to go with that. And he said, holding our talents under a bushel serves nobody. It backfires on us too. Keep it in terms of Ubuntu. How do we learn to speak? Well, people listen. Another quotation I love by Corita, the artist, great musicians are made by, what do you think? Great audiences. So what's going on here, I'm putting my act together. I think it's making sense because you're listening. And I see you listening. And so my area in terms of psychology has been on relationships. What draws people together? How do they navigate with each other? And basically, with a background in filmmaking, it's face-to-face interaction. That's it. It happens in microseconds. We monitor it. And something happens between us that happens nowhere else. So, getting aside, my wife says, stay on track, Jim, and don't talk too much. But, okay, the other one is the flamingo. I think it's a special bird, I understand, with the gay community. And the part is, if you are dealing with sexual orientation, private sexual feelings and so on, coming out is a big deal, okay? And for all of us, not in terms of sexuality, but any kind of a talents that we have, keeping it under a bushel and holding it back, we suffer in every interaction we have other people, okay? Is it okay to bring it out? Okay. So, here's the flamingo. Can fancy fly? Can we ever be too fancy to fly? With the flamingo as our guide, we navigate the wetlands of our life. How? head down, feeding from the bottom. Such an inept posture. Such a gawky-looking bird, with spindly legs, knobby knees, big feet, bent beak, until it flies. So the part here, you can see why that is a very special meaning, not only for the gay community, but for any of us. When we let our talents show, you don't know if it's going to be, but damn it, you go for it. And that's what artwork and wood carving is all about. Everything is different, and we don't stop there. How about a peacock? We're all peacocks, or want to be. Is it okay to be a peacock? I don't know. Find out. Peacocks all. One by one the feathers unfold to flash in the sun their vibrations. As if to say, take note, world, I am here. Here to say, here to shout, here to sing. No fear shall silence me. No hate will harden me. No failure will stop me. Persons, like peacocks, are meant to be seen. There is a time to stand up, to risk being noticed, and in sharing ourselves, discover ourselves. Ubuntu. Deep woods drummer. I love the outdoors, that backpacking and that. And if you've been out in the outdoors, especially the deeper woods, you may hear the ruffed grouse. You don't see them. Hunters love it, but these birds are good at hiding. But you hear them during mating season. And it's a drum. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. It could be a half a mile away. You can't look at it, but it's there. So this is a reflection on the ruffed grouse. Deep woods drummer. Come, come, come to the deep woods. Come, 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 deeper, my dear. Come, come, come into the deep woods and leave behind your fear. Bring high hopes and silent stride, sharp eyes, keen ears, and a little deet. Insect repellent. Check out life from a different side. Leave maps behind and follow your feet. For to step inside the deep woods is to step outside ourselves. To get lost in the deep woods is to begin to find yourself. You can see how the birds get the time to think and reflect. What do these birds tell us? What's their experience? Here's my experience with the blue heron. Like Nokomis, you're walking around it, whatnot, and you see a blue heron launch. If you're close, it'll scare you. Okay? So, lesson from the great blue. The canoe glides softly, silently, over the water as boulders glisten from below. Branches reach out from the shades of shore as we round the river bend. Then it explodes, feathers flapping in fury, until it launches just off our bow. The swoosh is silencing as feathers finally grab the air and slide downriver, past the cedars, past the birches. The shock of this surprise awakes us, reminding us that beyond the gunnels of our life, there is a world charged with energy and beauty. Firefly. The phoenix. I did this carving first time in 1995 on the anniversary of Hiroshima. Okay? But in the addiction community and other communities, the phoenix has powerful meanings, doesn't it? Rising from the ashes. So this is called firefly, to the phoenix in us all. Rise up, you badly beaten. Be gentle on your wounds, and respect your sweat. Just because you didn't win doesn't mean you lost. Just because they didn't hear doesn't mean you have nothing to say. The fire within is not so easily snuffed. The mourning dove, called sweet and low. Think of your conduct when you heard of mourning dove. Sweet and low. How often have you heard it? From afar, on a wire, a shadow in the sky, but close up, a hue of beautiful colors. The mourning dove's sweet song, unmistakable, effervescent, floating from nowhere and everywhere, across the alleys, down the streets, as wilderness comes home. A great way to start a day. The loon. Think of the times if you're outdoors and you're first hearing the loon. Think of what that was like. We even hear them in the city sometimes. But wilderness welcome. Imagine yourself getting out of a car after a long drive and a long week. Slam goes the car door as gravel changes to grass underneath. It's been a hectic day, week, dragged out year. The ears still ring, the mind still numb, with too busy, too fast, too long a toil. Now the pines come first, seducing the nose, as a gentle breeze fondles the face. The glistening waters through the birches capture the eye with a hypnotic rhythm, and quietness starts to fill the soul. Then, from afar it comes, across the seething swamp, through the silent tamaracks, an echoing, shimmering, welcoming wail. Softly scented air fills the lungs as heart and soul begin to listen. This is my favorite. Maybe all yours. The chickadee. Foul weather friend to the chickadee. Chickadee-dee, who is there more friendly than me? Feisty and fast, feathers unfurled, always I'll find you, wherever you're whirled. I'll not fly away when cold winds blow. I'll stand up to the stiffest of snow. To be a friend is to be free, and who is there more free than me? To sing my mind, to song your day, winter or summer, with you I'll stay. So, a chickadee day to you too. This is one of my more powerful ones, the peace dove. That's what I began carving here. Okay. We all want peace. We all hunger for it. But peace is the hardest thing we ever do, because it involves dealing not just with ourselves, but with those we want peace. So here's the reflection on the peace dove. Happy are you who walk in peace, who wait in peace, for you shall have the courage to listen. Happy are you who listen for peace, for you shall have the courage to speak. Happy are you who speak up for peace, for you shall have the courage to work. Happy are you who work for peace, for you shall have the courage to hope. Happy are you who hope for peace, for you shall have the courage to suffer. Happy are you who suffer for peace, for you shall soar and lead us all. Okay. Thinking about power in relationships, one of my mentors said there's two ways to influence people: hammers and spaghetti. Hammers, you pound away. You know, I'm right, da-da-da-da, listen to me, treat people like a nail. We know it doesn't work. They pound back. if the house is on fire, you got to be a hammer. But most of the times in relationships, it doesn't work. And my mentor said, no, people are not so much like a nail to be pounded. They're more like a piece of spaghetti, and a cooked piece of spaghetti to boot. Now, you cannot push spaghetti. You can only pull. That's the only way it goes. So the bit about peace, we got to make the first move. In carving, I don't know what's there. I got to touch the wood with a knife and go with it. What's there? What happens? Okay. Maestro of the meadowlark. Often heard but seldom seen, except from a solitary fence post, where the lark scans beauty over waves of grass. This sprightful bird oversees shafts of wheat, tendrils of oats, barley, and corn. Good song nurtures good food, bread, pasta, cereals, grits, and tortillas. So step softly, listen carefully, and feel fluid beauty. And my last one, the cedar waxwing. If you've seen a cedar waxwing, it's a beautiful bird, but in some ways it's mysterious. People often see it with a little berry in the mouth, because during the fall of the year, some of them get intoxicated on eating the fermented berries and fall down and get going. But I call this a quiet presence. Imagine yourself sitting down and hearing something and trying to figure out where it's coming from. So a quiet presence on encountering cedar waxwings. Soft sounds are coming from somewhere as I scan the forest around me. Yet neither the birches to my right nor the maples to my left yielded the source to my scanning binoculars. The grass softly moaned with the wind and joined the chorus of the soft sounds. As a leaf skipped across the forest floor, yet I still could not see the soft sounds, and chose to be still and silent myself. Then I looked up to see in the branches just above my head, barely inches away, a covey of waxwings, perhaps a dozen, feeding on berries in quiet community, their smooth colors radiating with the leaves. How often had I missed them before? Fast steps through the woods yield not treasures. So close we seldom see. So, that's about everything I have to share with you. I appreciate you. I have time for questions. We're supposed to wind it down at 2:30, right?
Yeah, take a few questions though, if there are.
Yeah, good.
Sure.
Do you have any comments, questions that you're curious about?
Well, I'm just curious how long it typically takes you to complete a bird.
Yeah. Small birds, like the pea stub, it involves sawing. I do that in batches because I have to adjust the saw. The carving, the carving of it will take about 45 minutes. Then the opening, another 15 minutes. And then the trimming, another half hour. So if I'm really speeding, a couple hours. But rushing with this stuff doesn't work.
No.
So the biggest birds I've done, you saw the eagle. The other birds, there's a picture of one of doing a falcon, a raptor. That involves more painting. And I'll learn to develop my airbrushing skills. And if I'm assuming you're familiar with an airbrush, but maybe not. It's like a pencil, okay? Very small, hold it in my hand, and it has a little reservoir where I put paint. And the bottom of the airbrush is connected to an air hose. And through that the airbrush, there's a needle, very precisely to the nozzle. And the lever that's there, I pull that lever back, it pulls the needle back, it opens up the aperture, and the paint goes through. So it takes some control. You can do just a whisper of it. You can do a full blast. It takes practice and learning, but it's almost magic. And the paints that I use, with the cardinal, I thought, well, cardinals are red. How do you get red? Well, how about dye? A nice red dye. Well, that worked for about a week because the dyes faded in the sun and became pink. So the next thing I shifted, acrylic paints. Very, very good. They're basically made out of plastic. They won't fade, they're waterproof and all that stuff, but they cover the wood. You can get away with it by doing very lightly, but if you want the solid colors, you got to put stuff down. I use now India inks. They come in many colors. It's like water. And it penetrates the wood like a stain, and I can have control over it and the variation in colors. And sometimes I need a sharp line. Well, then I'll use an acrylic, something like that. So hey, I'm still learning very much. So I like the learning curve on this stuff because everyone is a new beginning. Okay, and if I'm too busy to carve, I'm not good. Too busy. I look back on my life. Whenever I've been working with wood, I've been okay. There's something about touching wood and working with it. It speaks back. And getting a feel for that is something. And having a joy with your wood turning, carpentry. I mean, this stuff is real. And to make something, and then to figure out what you want to make, and why would you do that? Well, I shared with you what pulls me on. And as a clinical psychologist, about 50 years, we can talk about mental illness. It's like an engine. You can tell it when it's broken, right? We can talk about things that are going wrong. It's very hard to talk about health, what goes right. And talking about that, understanding what that is. Yes, physically, nutrition, hydration, a big part of being healthy is relationships. Everything we know about longevity has to do with people being able to be with other people. Ubuntu. Okay, you're alive. Someone can look at you and smile. You have things to share. It sounds so trite, but it's absolutely not. That's the feel of life. And so the health part of it comes in, is the fire within, is to nurture your curiosity, nurture your imagination, nurture your creativity, whatever that would be. And don't let anybody tell you it doesn't look good. Because they're seeing it from a different perspective. They have no idea what you went through to get there. Okay? And I'm fortunate. My wife and I have a son who is now 50 years old. When he was as a baby, he was born with a pencil in his hand. Okay? Most kids are that way. And if you tell a kid it doesn't look like a horse, they'll stop drawing.
Yeah.
Chris did not. He loved to draw. He's very shy, introverted, very shy. We'd have guests come over, and he'd say hi. He'd go to his room, and he'd come back later with he would ask them, name an animal. Well, pretty soon it was name 5 animals. He'd come back. Here you are. And okay, one thing led to another. One thing that fosters talent, we know, is social reinforcement. You will discover your talents when other people notice them before you. Okay? That's where relationships come in. The other part is Chris, when he was 2 years old, we went to see Star Wars at the France Outdoor Theater. Oh, here we are, 2-year-old in a VW Beetle, the three of us in the car. We forgot his pacifier. Holy cow, what do you do with that? Well, I grabbed some M&Ms, but we didn't need them. It was Star Wars, and he got imprinted on R2-D2, C-3PO, Luke Skywalker. And from that point on in his life, his destination was to work with George Lucas. He didn't quite make it to George Lucas, but he was, in 2000, he went out to Hollywood, majored in art. Went out to Hollywood to do character design in the movies. He began doing that. He has some movie credits like Men in Black and Ghostbusters, stuff like that. But he was also doing character drawings for J.J. Abrams, the last director of Star Wars. And doing that, Abrams said, yeah, bring in what you got. And he would want character drawings of the actors he could put in his office. And he brought him in. Abrams says, really good. What else you got? He said, well, I got my sketchbook. He said, let me see it. Well, his sketchbook he called The Daily Zoo. And I'll mention that Chris is a leukemia survivor.
Oh, wow.
2005, April Fool's Day, he's diagnosed with acute myelogenous leukemia, deadly. He's 29 years old. You're not supposed to live with that stuff. Kids you can manage, but the kid, no. He survived. And a year later, he was reflecting on what did I learn from cancer? He said, well, as an artist, I learned to treasure my own art. And what does that mean? Well, he's designing for studios and other stuff. He said, what that means for me is I'm going to do one drawing a day just for me. Think of that. You got to sit down and do something. What are you going to do? And he hasn't stopped. Okay? It's been 20 years. And there's a book called The Daily Zoo. If you're interested, you can look at it. There might even be some in the library here. But it's the first volume is 365 drawings following a progression of dealing with leukemia. And it's not a horror story. The first drawing was the blue-footed booby. Now, if you haven't seen a blue-footed booby, well, they're worth looking at. When J.J. Abrams, he would say, get an ideas, this kid, name an animal, and he'd go for it. Once when he was giving a presentation at Mayo for the cancer survivors thing, he was talking about art, and he had a big sheet of paper up there, and said, here's how I do it. Say, call the audience, name an animal. Someone said, a mosquito. Okay. What's a mosquito doing? A ballerina. Now, mosquito ballerina? What kind of mosquito is that? Is it a tame mosquito or what? No, it's a feisty one. So he goes on, zip, 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 zip. This is how it comes together. Okay? It's not from a stereotype, it's that. He asked Abrams to name an animal. And he said, a goldfish. Okay, what could be more mundane than a goldfish? Well, in the book, there's an illustration of a goldfish, a big goldfish stuck in a small goldfish bowl. And the title of it is Stuck. Okay? So you get some idea. Another drawing was Scared Sheepless. You got that. Another drawing was the man across, seeing the oncologist, looked like a bear. Big guy, hat, turned him into a waiting room bear. So the idea of once you start being creative, you cannot turn it off. That's good. Just find something that engages you and go to town. That's my formula for mental health. Because when the mind is sitting still, we get trapped. And the challenge of addiction is sometimes life is too powerful, too much, we need relief. And the problem with that can be as well, that can numb us and create more problems. But I hope you can kind of see how this weaves together in terms of not just the techniques but being able to find a life and having things to share, having things to talk about, finding meaning in life. And, so any other comments or questions? Yeah.
Where do you show your birds? Or do-
Normally at an art fair. I got my business card up here if people are interested. The last art fair we did was December 5th. You know, the big art fair, it was in Highland High School in St. Paul. It's just a Saturday. It's like a feeding frenzy with about 45 artists. Really good stuff. But Nan and I decided we're not going to do that again. And the reason is we had to set up Friday night, bring it in and stuff. We had to take down on Saturday, get out of there before they turn the lights out. And Nan realized she was coming down with pneumonia and other stuff, and you know, it's too much. But in May, we'll be out in the Black Hills and in Custer State Park at the State Game Lodge for a week. They have an artist in residence program, so I'm carving, showing, meeting people from all over the world. And so having an outlet like that. But I do a few art fairs. They're going to be more modest, but if you're at all interested. And also, I don't know, Joe, we'll have to talk. If this video that you're recording, that we may be able to put it on YouTube. So, you know, people say, how do you do it? Well, you saw how I do it. But more importantly, why? That's the key for it. So, well, the day is going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Good. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there, like, people stay for snacks?
Oh, yes, we have snacks and also our donation baskets are there. If you're able, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Very good program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I wasn't good with my dad. And he carved that cane.
Oh, good. So good that you Hey, Rob. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming.
I didn't get that chance. I didn't do anything. So I took a double Larry, who also does see if he's done anything like that.
Thanks for coming.
What a nice calming program. Right? Didn't you feel good after that program? Nice. My question now.
I was a Boy Scout. And we all got Boys Life magazine. And in there was a column by Woodland Jim.
Are you a little stiff when you say
Slide of the month.
like me? I did not know that.
One thing led to another. Well, I think we learned that. I mean, I think I wanted to do that. I need to learn how to sharpen a knife. I'm still learning how to sharpen a knife.
My father did some carving in his old age, and one of the birch tree in our front yard died, and he carefully cut it up, and he was a woodworker, and did wood patterns and metal patterns, and he carved a cane for me, he was a square, that knife was so beautiful. I'm sure he can tell you, meditated on my daughter, my wife, and my granddaughter all like to do crafty stuff with their hands while and I'm sure when you talk about the hands of the brain, is that what
Yeah. It's magic. I mean, it's partly, and I think the cane you got from your father You touch it.
It's energy is in it.
Yeah.
You mentioned a mentor.
I have a number of mentors, but this one was a psychologist, no longer living, in Michigan State University, who had a way of using videotape for people to see themselves, but not be critiqued. But as you watch it, they remembered what was going on that the camera didn't capture, and to talk about it.
Like stepping back and looking at it from a different perspective when you connect, relax and do that.
So anyway, this stuff. He also talked about there are two kinds of people, peaches and oranges. Oranges are people that have a tough outer line. Once you get through it, smooth sailing. Then there are peaches. They look like a real peach, but there's a pit you'll never get to.
Oh, yes, that, those kind of people. Thank you, it's very good.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you're gonna help him be a YouTube star.
He was an old
Well, he had peace of mind.
He became famous. Well, you can look him up on guy's got a Facebook.
Yes. Yes. It's really fun.
Thank you very much. Wonderful.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's fun. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. We'll turn you off.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Good stuff. God, no.
I love your insights.
Yeah, so when is your book gonna be out?
I gotta write it. But I don't know
All
if
you have to do is a collection of these.
Yeah, I don't have that, but I'm thinking that maybe it may not be a book. It might be a YouTube. Joe and I,
Well, nowadays.
a combination of people are coming out with that.
Yeah.
And you can have it in print, but you can have it on the part of it, so.
Okay. Well,
Please
yeah.
stay and have coffee and cookies.
Yeah.
Can, yeah.
Joe, do you have something you had to go to, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, have some
Coffee and cookies?
Okay, good.
Ask me.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I just think it's gonna break. Oh, yeah. There's more feathers.
It'll gather dust, but it won't break.
Don't give it to the heart. To give you, one of the big the lady in our mix is living here, who was not here, who has this MAL leukemia, which is a different kind, and she also lives very long, and I wish she had been here. It's a certain kind that they use chemicals on their children that have been dead years ago.
Good stuff.
Good,
She
yeah.
likes to walk, and she keeps living, and, I mean, I usually hear that people don't survive.
The technology and medicine has advanced.
Fortunately.
Chris was told that he was diagnosed much earlier, they couldn't have saved him.
That's interesting too, that you could have your situation before the medical technology is ready to take care of it for you. How old was he?
29,
Okay,
he's now 50.
good. That's a great story too. Look out!
Thank you. It's not online, but I have it, and someday I'll publish something. Yeah. Well, I have, this is the card that goes with the piece. My son drew my hand. It tells you how it's done. And a little bit about me. But take it with the story of General Grant, Civil War. During the battles, he'd have his chair, he'd sit at the headquarters of the tent. He'd do two things: chain smoke cigars and whittle. And whittle. Just centering, people would come and report into him. Okay, just kind of centering. Oh, sure. Yeah, they still make stuff like this. No, this one has it's a Sony, and it has, I can see the screen there, and it can fold up, and it's just a good, and it has good quality video. The video that you saw was made with this camera.
You did put the harness or you made them?
Oh, the harness I made, because I figured I had to have something to hold the camera.
Right.
I could put it on a tripod and get under
Yeah, I
it.
know, but yeah.
This is much better.
So cool.
So I got put the camera in there.
Oh, you put the camera there. Oh, 'cause I couldn't see exactly.
So it's on there, and then with the, when this is open, I can see.
All right, also, as you're talking, you can see what you're seeing. Oh, okay, so you put the harness on the back. Oh, you big hand.
Yeah, just something I made.
Yeah. And
It works.
the camera just.
This is the camera, the screw that goes into the camera.
Okay, so that, okay.
Yeah, all the cameras have some kind of screw.
Yeah, because the two products like yeah. No, I said you put it on, but so it's not a GoPro camera style.
Well, they're good, but you don't have a screen on it, right? If you can see what's
Oh, right. Oh, isn't that a screen? Oh, right. Yeah. No, I really like that now more as my TV is generating more. I realized well, I had to sit, but now I can do everything just underneath with the computer.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I like a regular keyboard, but with a touchscreen phone, it's right here.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier for me to manage. So I thought that was cool. So neat to be able to see what you did with the stuff. Oh, I didn't watch about that wing. Okay, there's not much space that you pull all the wings out. I can't, I mean, I would think they come off.
Did you ever chew on a toothpick?
I don't know. Well,
Maybe sometime it's in your mouth and you chew a little bit, you can bend that toothpick because the wood fibers get wet
yeah, they get wet,
and you
right?
can bend them. That's what this is.
So that little area where you had this was wet before you.
Right there.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to flip the whole thing.
Just that area, that's what I went for like, God, you did so many. You did pop off, crap.
And aspen, it only has to soak for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Really?
That's it, if it's really thin. Pine, a couple hours.
Really?
So different things.
Kind of soft, but aspen is.
Aspen is a hard oak. It's a soft hardwood.
Okay,
And I use
yeah.
pine mostly because it has a strong grain.
Okay.
And I need that for the wings.
Like the bigger bird. No, because I know when I was burner fires. That's soft and the hardwood.
And I get the pine that I got, the Anthony. I get the pine from the Menominee Indian Reservation in Wisconsin.
Oh, you
The
do?
sawmill, yeah,
Really?
directly to the sawmill. And I was in a scout camp for growing up, just above the reservation.
Oh, so you were there?
It's simply stuff.
Ah, cool. Wow, neat. Man, that's, wow. Because I was thinking you probably could get a lumber here.
Well, you can, but most lumber, if you go to like Home Depot, a lot of that construction lumber is kiln dried. They put it in a kiln and bake it to evaporate a lot of the water, because now it gets stronger. It's almost like stone. So get the wood wet, and now it comes to life again.
Hey, can you explain to me then why wood that you buy what they do?
They bake it. Well, some of the wood is true, but it's going to be outdoor. They put chemicals in it, so it won't rot.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, we don't want to carve that.
All right, because then I always, over the years, I was like, clean it, stain it. But does the chemical